Good afternoon. This is the Athens City Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, July 6, 2011. It's 12 p.m. and we have established a quorum. And let's see, Nicholas Bittner is absent today on vacation. So, our first case would be case number 11-04, Panich and Knoll Properties. I'm sorry. Is there anybody who's going to be speaking before the Planning Commission? Okay. Do you promise to tell the truth to the Planning Commission to the best of your abilities?
I do.
Okay. Let's see. Again, that's case number 11-04, Panich and Knoll Properties, Athens Sun and Fun, Title 41. Paul, do you want to begin?
I'm going to turn that over to John because I was not expecting to be at this meeting today, so I'm a bit unprepared, to be honest with you. My earlier meeting was done quicker than I thought, but John has the update and all the information for you.
As you know, we went over this 2 weeks ago when Mr. Knoll was not present, but we did discuss a lot of the requirements that would need to be met here. The property, project as we discussed, is okay by zoning in a B3. The setbacks, side yard setbacks, rear setback, parking, etc. Coverage was okay. Parking's okay. I did get the report back from the from Andy Stone, or the Engineering Public Works Department, and I have not shared this with Mr. Knoll yet. He just gave it to me a little bit ago. There are some comments on it for some various things, but he was confident that they could all be met at the time of the final submittal for the drawings coming in. Briefly, I'm looking at it myself for the first time. Details 3 and 4 on these prints that were submitted to you most recently shall be 12-inch rather than 10-inch on whatever that would, is that the curb depth or? 3 and 4. Yeah. 3 and 4. Yeah. So curb and landscaping, he says 12-inch rather than 10-inch. We show 12. So, yeah, that one's showing. Okay. Show the dimensions of the curb cuts. Throat width should be no greater than 20 feet, and I think you want to speak to that. But right now, well, you changed that too to 20 foot. And but did you want to talk about that? And the show curb cut radii information. And the curb and sidewalk currently do not exist along the frontage of the property. Delineate where a new curb and sidewalk will be installed. Provide a typical section for the sidewalk. The city will not be installing the sidewalk. And the revisions dated the 22nd of June are partially acceptable. Please indicate new sidewalk and curb. And then storm drainage, provide invert and top of casting elevations, and drainage plan for new parking lot and roof drain. And water and sewer would be determined more on tapping fees and that when you had plumbing drawings and that completed. And then everything was still adequate from before from Chief Troxel and from Chief Pyle in regards to police and fire.
Can I give this to Mark?
Yes, you can give that to him, so you can look through it. And I believe that's all I have to explain at this time, and I'll let Mr. Knoll describe some of the things he's wishing to do.
For the record, Mr. Knoll, could you state your name and address?
Okay, do you want me to go up to the microphone?
You're fine. I think you can sit right there.
Whatever you want. My name is Mike Knoll. I'm with Panich Knoll Architects. I own the property with my partner David Panich. We've owned this property, I think, 15 years. Our tenant, who has been there probably over 10 years, expressed a concern about the age and condition of the existing building. We couldn't argue with him that it is an older building that's been remodeled several times. For those who love history, it used to be the old Parquet drive-up, drive-through, at that location and converted into Magic or Video Store when video stores were the in thing to do. And then Athens Sun and Fun opened up their pool facility there. Because of its original nature, design, they needed a building that could show their hot tubs a little bit better than it presently does. There's some interior ramps in there that makes it difficult for them to move tubs around and those things. And instead of losing them to another tenant, we agreed that we would build them a new building to put their store into. Because of the nature of the property, we needed to add some apartments above to justify the cost and keep his rent down. And that's why it has the apartments above. Those apartments above, I think you have plans on those, don't you? Are meeting the new trends of Athens in the sense that they'll have a bathroom with every bedroom, which is the new trend of Athens. College students and people are requesting. We hope that the budget will allow us to fully sprinkle the building, which makes Chief Troxel very happy, although under the code it's not needed. But we feel that is an item that we would prefer to have that additional safety added to it if we can get it to fit into our budget. The building will be built as the existing building stays in operation, which will make it a little tricky for us doing that, but we needed to maintain their store and operation until that happens. With that, fortunately, we own the property across the street, so if we need any temporary storage areas, we have that across the street. We have more than enough adequate parking across the street that if we use a few parking spaces, it's not going to affect our operation of 507 Richland Avenue. And that's kind of it. Can I answer any other questions?
In terms of handicap accessibility,
Under Ohio Building Code, we're required for the retail space on the first floor to be handicapped accessible. Due to the fact that the size of the second floor is not required under the Ohio Building Code.
Previously, according to our minutes, when we talked about parking, John, it stated that the 11 parking spaces on the south side do not meet code.
We've talked about that and looked at it here on this drawing. He reduced the...
Which drawing is that, the C or the S?
The most recent one, the C101.
C101, okay.
The most recent one that you would have a copy of, where the curb cut has been reduced to 20 foot. If they were to change to 24 foot on the inside as well, between parking spaces, that would make the parking spaces 20 feet long, and it would be adequate. So it's something that just needs to be changed on drawings, but there is room. You seeing what I'm saying?
Nope.
Okay. You guys have the drawings?
So rather than 18 feet by 9, it'd be 20 by 9, and therefore fulfill the 180 square feet.
Yes. This should be changed to 20 as well, and that would make these each 20.
You mean you want to widen the curb
That stays at 20. Then this would be reduced to 20, so that's adding 2 foot to each one of these. That makes that 20 and 20, and therefore it would be acceptable.
Means 9 foot
9 by
wide.
20s, which are, that's 180, which means are good.
Okay.
And then this one here is narrow as well. It should be 8 foot instead of 7. And we have talked about that, and I will see that that's done on the scale.
Okay. The normal is 180 square feet. It doesn't matter if it's,
9 by 20 or 10 by 18.
okay,
Or anything in between.
okay.
I also heard Mr. Knoll reference that he wanted to talk about the curb cut.
The only thing that we talked about is because they do deliver merchandise, retail merchandise by semi-trucks, if we can give the truck drivers a little more space to back into, the less chance they have of driving over sidewalks and breaking them up and things like that. So we would like to widen that out a little bit, just giving them a better opportunity to back into that curb cut then. So instead of the 20, I think I'd like to have 22 there. Everything else would stay the same with that, but just widen that a little bit then.
at the last meeting, Paul mentioned as far as making a distinction between residential and customer parking?
Yes, that can be done by signage. We're viewing right now that the parking, which would be to the south, would be parking for the residents, and the parking directly next to the building during store hours would be used for customers. We're viewing that the parking on the north side, the horizontal parking, we would end up having those be used for their own employees. They generally have 2 people working in the store. I haven't seen any more than that over the last 10 years, and so they would park over there with their vehicles in, providing therefore free access for parking all along the, next to the building for their customers.
There were 2 curb cuts on this?
Yeah, one here, one here. This one's smaller, 11 feet.
There are 2.
Speaking with Andy this morning, he said that 20 foot is the subdivision regulations for curb cut maximum width. But this isn't really a subdivision, and he believes that the planning commission has the power to grant 22 if he wishes to do so, but 20 is our maximum standard with the city. So, and if he did wish to do that, then we also have to talk about the parking then on the one side would be reduced back down to 18 feet again. But he does have that 5-foot sidewalk with the 2-foot bumper going over it, much like he did at the Verizon building out on East State Street. So that in itself would be asking kind of for a variance too. Parking space.
Even in the front of the Verizon store?
On the side of the building, they made their parking spaces 18 foot long and put in a 5-foot sidewalk. By code, you're supposed to have a 20-foot long parking space and a 3-foot sidewalk with the curb cut, so the total width is the same. It's what, 23 foot either way you look at it, but his proposal, what they proposed is making the sidewalk 5 foot wide and then using the curve of the sidewalk as your car block, so to speak. And then the car sticks over the sidewalk 2 foot, but still allowing 3 foot for people to pass by. That way you don't have snow and trash between the car block and the sidewalk. It's not in our code, but it works, so.
Well, anything will be an improvement to the long stretch of asphalt pull-up anywhere in my mind. And just getting a sidewalk in there.
But if he was to widen that 22 foot, and it does work for the parking spots up against the building for the customers, where they would have the 2-foot curve going over 2 foot of the car going over top of the sidewalk. And he still has adequate room on the sidewalk for handicap accessibility and such in front of the vehicles at that point.
Whereas if you did the 3-foot, you'd probably have the bumper.
I do not like the bumpers
Right.
because you trip over them. It's difficult to clean the snow around them. They're a place for litter to gather, and with the city's new requirements for litter, we like to keep our place as clean as possible, so it just makes it easier to handle it then. And we've been doing, probably for the last 15 years, we've been using that detail with it and on it. Parking blocks are just a pain, especially with snow removal. Even the blades will hit those things and rack them, and then next thing you know, they're all broken, and it's just their headache. Parking blocks are.
In the other direction, you only have 2 feet before the lot line hits. The south-facing parking. You say that you're going to be shrinking that down to 18 feet.
No, we keep that at the 20 there. Then
Okay, so you're really just talking about moving one side over.
one side, yeah.
Okay. So the curb cut would actually not expand in both directions, but to
Just
the
one.
north
2 foot
side,
to
2
the
feet
north.
to the north.
Exactly.
Just asking.
So you get 20 to the south, 18 to the north, first parking spaces.
Yes, that's what it's looking like.
Yeah, the
Since you
south
brought
side.
up the reference to your other project, or maybe you did, John, I just want to request that it's good signage, good striping along the lines what RJ was saying for parking spaces or delineated traffic flow.
He will be required to go shade tree. I believe that's next Thursday evening. I have had a preliminary discussion with them, and they're probably going to recommend 2 trees out in front of the building, in that space out there, and I think you were okay with that as well.
Any other questions for Mr.
I would just recommend to the Shade Tree Commission to keep in mind that we are planning on doing Richland Avenue improvements, even though unfortunately we didn't get the most recent round of funding. So placement should probably be coordinated with the Public Works Director to make sure that when we go in to do drainage and street improvements, we're not
Whatever
relocating
they're
it.
doing out there, right?
This is about the only place on Richland Avenue that we have storm drainage that we can tie into. The rest of it is pretty limited then. And I think it was basically because the original Morrison School provided access for the city across their property to put in the storm too on it. And so we're kind of fortunate in that area. We're not dumping this water out into Richland.
A couple of questions. Just so you're talking about packing a semi-truck in there. How long is a semi-truck with the backs in? Will that actually stay out of traffic once all done, said and done?
It's semi is ranging anywhere from 45 to 50 feet.
Okay. So it brings it pretty close.
Yeah.
The trailer on the semi is 52 foot.
Okay. And I stand corrected on that then. What do we have there?
From here to here.
So they put that hang over the sidewalk.
Hangs over the sidewalk.
They can go back.
They're obviously getting in there now.
Well, they may be pulling the sideways. I lost this one. How about this one right here?
Yeah.
I guess the other question, I noticed the city planner Logue sent us a smaller PDF of the same date, actually says, well, maybe it isn't, hold on, it's January, okay. The January PDF, if I'm looking at correctly, shows stippling for the back end. This area that's in between, essentially, if I'm looking at the site plan legend here, you have, of course, the newly constructed area, developed area to remain no change, and then you have this area with the 5 trees behind the building, the darker trees. Now, is that going to change any at this point? I guess because it doesn't fall in.
Where our goal is, the most that's going to change is the curb back there may adjust a foot or 2 further back than it presently does. We are not at all interested in touching that hillside with that and doing anything with that. And that's why you can kind of see the big rock to the right. We're not even going to touch that thing because it's sitting there and it's holding up the dirt behind it and kind of adds an architectural character to it with it. And so our feeling is we want to keep that barrier as less affected as we can by what we're doing. And that's why we put the building the way we did, is that we wanted to, as you can see, the rock that did fall, I think that was back in the, if I remember right, the late 60s at that location. And we figured, well, if another piece would break off on any chance, the chances are it wouldn't move much further than that, so that's why we did what we did with our design.
Okay. I guess the reason why I was asking, because it looked like it was neither undeveloped nor being newly landscaped, and it fell in the blank in that area.
The old plans have this marking for newly landscaped,
Yeah, stippling.
right here, Mike.
Yeah, I think
The new one doesn't show.
Yeah, basically, it's, right now, I think we'd go to a ground cover on it. It'd be too difficult to mow, so we'd find a nice ground cover that we felt would work in that location with it then.
Okay.
Other than weeds or something like that, going to some kind of a ground cover, a crown fretch or a pachysandria or something like that would spread in that area.
To address the mayor's concern about the semi, can the dumpster itself be pushed back?
Basically, the reason we put the dumpster where it was because it's a direct shot back, so as they pull and back into it, they would have the capability. There'll be although we're not rendering that, we say new asphalt, I have a feeling that that whole area will probably in reality be all new concrete, because as late as this project will be in this season, we probably won't be able to get an asphalt truck in there in November, so we'll probably pour it all in concrete. And that's what we prefer to have in front of our dumpster anyhow, and that's not rendered there.
Yeah.
Because basically asphalt trucks are notorious for tearing up asphalt, so,
You did put it on this one.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's a pad on it, just...
Yeah, but I have a feeling that by the time it's all said and done, that whole thing's going to be concrete. Because I don't think I can get an asphalt company in by the time we get it ready and tore down the original building there.
The other, excuse me, the other question I had was in the previous, or perhaps in the minutes here, it states it will be fire suppressed, but you're also going to look into sprinkling. But suppression is by the state because of the residential?
Actually, this building is not requiring a sprinkler system, although we do usually get some very good competitive pricing on sprinkler, and so we'll seriously look at putting sprinkler in this building because we just feel it's safer. But also, we've got to look at, we haven't got our bids in yet, so that's one of my areas that I can fudge or I can modify if I can with that. But we're strongly leaning towards a sprinkler, so it's just much better.
Because the number of units are less than is required by the state, even though it's mixed use, fire suppression is not required, but fire separation between the first floor and the residential will be required. And what we're finding out, when you have put in horizontal fire separation, it's almost just the cheap, if not cheaper, to just put the fire suppression in. And I think that's the direction it's leaning.
Yeah.
Don't forget your carbon monoxide detectors.
Yes.
That'll be January.
Coming at us.
Is there a signage plan?
Signage plan, we haven't met with Athens Sun Fund to see what they want to do on signage yet, to address that, so we don't have one.
Be a separate one.
We'll submit that separately. Normally, that'll be their requirement to pay for separately, but we'll work with them on that.
Ask what kind of windows will be used on the residential end? As far as will be,
There'll be double insulated windows, is what they will be. We're also studying the use of some green roofs to reduce the water runoff on the sloped roof, the shingles roof, to go into the green roofs and then drain, so to help both cooling wise on the building as well as to give it some character, as well as maybe doing some water cleaning by using that then.
And a pool on the top, see if it'll all fit in with the fun and sun, sorry.
What's that?
But a little pool, it'll be a little oasis up there.
We did discuss the rain garden fund. Kind of like that. I'd be looking at that too.
Yeah, it's, I've got flat roofs and they naturally start growing things on them, so.
True. Here, any questions?
Nope.
I'm good.
do we want to make a motion? Are there any,
I'd make a motion to accept the Title 41 review here with the recommendations from Andy Stone and the changes we're talking about in terms of the parking.
Are you okay with 22 foot and then the 18 foot? That's kind of a variance, I think, that they can grant since it's not a Title 23 request.
Okay. So that's my motion.
Should we do pending Shade Tree Commission review?
Yes, why not put the Shade Tree Commission involved in it too? I'm assuming that they'll get what they need.
Second?
Okay, there you go.
second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Report from the city planner, Paul, anything?
I've got a few things. I spoke with Kevin Klein earlier this week, perhaps late last week. Mr. Klein is going to request to be put on the agenda for the next planning commission meeting for that project he's been working on, off and on, down on Hickory Street. I know he's presented to the Planning Commission several times on that planned unit development. He had a few things to work out with our Public Works Department relating to water connectivity to it, and I believe they've got that worked out, and so he's ready to move forward, so he's going to ask to be at the July 20th meeting. I'm working with an intern right now this summer. We are putting together an outreach, educational, and risk project for flooding within the city of Athens. We're going to work with our government channel crew to put together a 15 or 20-minute segment so we can run it on streaming video and also run it on the government channel to explain the history of flooding in Athens and the reality of living in a floodplain and why we have to pay flood insurance and why we have a flood ordinance and why the requirements are different for construction in a floodplain and all of that stuff. So that's coming along really well, actually. She's put together a lot of research, and we're going to meet next week and try to put together like a storyline for this. I also just got out of a meeting in Pomeroy this morning with FEMA and State ODNR, Department of Natural Resources. They are going to do a detailed study of the Upper Shade Branch River, which is the watershed which drains into the Ohio River. There are portions of the south side of Athens that are in that watershed, and they do not drain into the Hocking. They drain into the Shade, and then they go into the Ohio. So there are parts of the city that will be affected. Not too much. The Oakmont subdivision, I believe, is probably the only area that really has an impact on it, and that's high and dry, as we both know. But I did have a long conversation with one of our ODNR representatives to discuss some of the issues that we've seen on Richland Avenue since the US 33 bypass was constructed, and it appears as if we've seen a lot more runoff into Coates Run, and we've seen more flash flooding on Richland. And he did say that they had been talking about doing a more detailed study of a 20-mile stretch of the Hocking River, and I was thinking, and what I was trying to explain is that there's a possibility that when they built US 33 there, that they may have changed that Upper Shade Branch watershed, and water that originally was draining into the Shade is now draining into the Hocking through Coates Run, and at least that's a theory that some of us have, and so I was trying to push him to help us out with getting a more detailed study of the Hocking and of Coates Run, especially since we're looking to do some major infrastructure work on Richland Avenue in the next few years. And I think that's all I had. There's a question, I think, about, Charlene and I did put the public notice in the newspaper for the bicycle parking to be on August 3rd, and we realized after the fact that the city has an annual safety day on August 3rd, and that Wednesday we typically cancel the Planning Commission meeting. So we may want to move that bike parking public hearing until the second meeting in August. As far as timelines, there'd be no impact because City Council is out of session for the month of August anyway. So if the Planning Commission would like it, Charlene and I can make that move, no problem. We have ample time to do it and give notice to everybody that we won't be meeting on the 3rd.
We normally don't meet in August either.
We don't.
We have taken it off before with council. I won't be here on the 17th. I support the bicycle
So you
association.
think?
Yeah.
Or we can move it into September if the Planning Commission doesn't choose to meet, but
We can name it a public hearing. I'd like it going, keep moving, but and it doesn't have to be, it just has to be a quorum or just take in public input.
Well, at August 3rd, there won't be you or myself or the planner or the director. Unless we change the time.
Move it off the 3rd,
Okay.
another date. That's what I was thinking.
should we do that then, move it to the second meeting in August and cancel for the 3rd?
And the second, what date is that? That's the
17th.
17th? Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, right now it
What's
does.
it?
August 17th?
Yeah, I guess no, because I think we're taking off on the 21st.
And in relation to that, I did send out an email to everybody. I think Charlene put it in the packet with the table as was requested at the last meeting for the creation of a Table D off-street bicycle parking. And I also simplified the definition, just to make it a little bit clearer. And I added a recommendation that, including in the definition, that the city will maintain a list of appropriate bicycle racks, just as to give an assistance to developers if they're wanting to know what we think is the best practice, not that they would be required to, but just so that we have them. Bike racks are generally the same cost, so we could try to steer them towards what we think is a better bicycle rack system. So,
I think you had some literature on that passed around a while ago.
yeah, we have seen some. There was also, I think at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, I can't remember if it was you, RJ, or if it was Nicholas, pointed out that it was not easy to find the tables in the zoning code on the muni code. We were able to get that changed, and so they are there on specific tabs on the left-hand column now. So you can bring up off-street parking, bulk controls, and all of those easily now.
I think it was Nicholas.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. John?
Just a couple items. Board of Zoning Appeals meeting is next Tuesday evening. We do have 2 cases scheduled for this week, or next week, I should say. 134 Grosvenor is a continuance of a case that was tabled last month for a attached deck to a house, and it exceeds the lot coverage and is taking away their parking. So that's the first one, and then the second one is 9 North May Avenue, where they're requesting to allow construction of addition to an accessory structure for a covered patio, basically. So that's that.
That's
Also,
setbacks, or is that coverage?
the existing garage is pretty much on the property line, and they want to go ahead and just put a extension on the front of the garage to bring it out to basically make a, I don't know if it's going to be considered a carport, or if they said it's really not a garage, basically a shed, so I think they just want to do a covered patio area in front of it. So, and then I mentioned before, the Shade Tree meeting is, I believe, next Thursday in here as well at 2 o'clock or 7 o'clock. There should be a couple cases coming up for that, the one we just discussed, and Tony Farian's project, which I can segue into. The public hearing for the PUD on Tony Farian's project is 7/11/11 at 7. So, July 11th at 7 o'clock in this room is the public hearing for Tony Farian's project on the PUD for his project on East Union and Mill Iron. And then the last issue I have is I came up town hall meeting, and I have gotten 3 or 4 emails requesting that the sign recommendations be resolved as soon as we can. So just thought I'd let you know.
So where are we at that point? That's it?
I think at this point we need to get feedback from the law director's office in regards to the window signs and the way I put it up or wrote it up for to be codified. And other than that, I think then it can come back if he's okay with everything for your approval or disapproval. So, and then forward to council.
I too have been stopped by people that participated on the sign committee saying, oh, when are you going to take action? So
They must have seen each other over the weekend, because I got three emails yesterday, so.
There are no citizens here to speak on any items, announcements, and other business for the next meeting is July 20th at noon here in the 3rd floor City Hall. Are there any other announcements, business? Hearing? Okay. Disposition of minutes from our last meeting. Anything that anyone would like to address?
do we have 2 minutes that we need to?
June, and the other
June
one?
1st
June 1st and 15th.
and June 15th.
Do you want to do them together or separate?
Or why don't we
I
go?
can't vote on the one for the 1st, since I wasn't here.
Oh, yes, okay.
Neither can you, we can't vote.
Again?
So June 15th.
I guess so. I move we accept the June 15th.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. We'll hold up on the June 1st, I guess.
That brings us to adjournment. Thank you very much.